I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, August the 13th, and when it rains, it pours. We've been fighting this market here, actually all of the dog days of summer, which we've been trudging through here and losing market position, even though the fundamentals looked favorable. Everything going the Packers' way, and just when you thought that it couldn't get any worse, then you have that fire at Finney County Tyson Fresh Meats plant there in Holcomb, Kansas. You take a 6,000 a head day plant down, you can't replace it. We've known we've been vulnerable because we've dropped a lot of our slaughter capacity over the last 20 years or so, and been getting along pretty good, really. You know, wouldn't it be nice to have Plainview, Texas back? Wouldn't it be nice to have Denison, Iowa back? I made a mistake there. Lexington, Nebraska is slaughtering. They had stopped for a while, but they are slaughtering now. But we've lost a lot of our capacity to slaughter and been getting along pretty good. Well, whenever a wheel comes off like this fire deal, there literally is no place for the cattle to go, and we've got our numbers back up there. If we'd have been in one of our number lulls where we were below 600,000 a week for what we needed to harvest, we could have trudged through pretty good. But you know, we're up there where we've got a lot of cattle to move. Over the next few months, the Southern Plains is going to have more cattle hitting the show list than maybe ever. And right there in the middle of that, where we need Tyson and Finney County, it's going to be shut down for a while. Now, we don't know how long. Everybody I talked to, I was at Missouri State Fair in Sedalia, Missouri on Monday morning, judged the carcass steer show there, and it was around a lot of guys that I know that are in the business, and everybody just rumoring about what's going to happen. Not sure, and they haven't made a positive statement yet. Of course, we don't know exactly, and Tyson doesn't know either. But I'm going to go with my best source, and he said that he heard that the fire, even though we saw the flames shooting out and it looked horrible, I have seen some pictures of it. Didn't really look all that bad. The fire was fairly well contained to one big room there, where they put the boxes together, and you wondered how concrete and steel could burn so good. But in fact, that's what they had, a lot of cardboard there. But it was fairly well confined there. Yes, they did have the ceiling fall in there, but from what he had heard, the slaughtering equipment and the coolers and everything were fine. Now, it did say that they had lost a significant amount of electrical in a utility room there that was adjacent or close by. But they've got people coming in from all over the country. They'll be tearing down what they need to get rid of and getting it back together as quick as possible. They'll spare no expense. You know, I even heard some people talking about conspiracy theories, you know, how this deal started or anything. I think maybe they're getting too much into that. Don't worry, Tyson wants that plant up and running. When your margins are probably 250 or to 300 a head to the good, and killing 6,000 a day there, and killing at least one shift on Saturdays, they want that plant up and going. Maybe you could find a bit of collusion in the way that they buy cattle between these packing plants, but I guarantee you one of the big four is not going to have a plant shut down so the rest of the industry can make some money. Don't be thinking that. But they're going to get it up and going as quick as they possibly can. They'll probably just get it to where they can go, and then they'll finish the rest of that some other time. But it's looking maybe now like maybe weeks instead of months. So that would be great if we could get that done. So, if we could move that to 3 to 4 weeks instead of 3 to 4 months, or even 6 weeks instead of 6 months, that would be great. But it's just hard to explain how big of a deal that was towards the industry, and it goes to show you how vulnerable your commercial cattle industry is. When we were running the slaughter capacity that we had at near 90% efficiency, which made the packers even more money, they weren't wasting a lot of extra space, that's for sure. But man, whenever you have a wheel come off, it's just you can't replace it. And so we'll see what happens. The other plants, Tyson plants, and the other companies too, probably going to be running at least full shifts and maybe 2 on Saturdays now for a while to try to make up, fill the gap there. But we'll see what happens, and we can hope for the best. I don't know whether the board will be down the limit here on Tuesday or not. I'm sure it'll be down hard. It's hard to stop that thing with these new this computer trading with the algorithms and all this stuff, because once it gets rolling one way or the other, man, it just goes. And but I would say we'll probably come back from that. What you need to do is look for opportunities when you see possible wrecks. The opportunity is that there's no reason that market shouldn't come back to right where it was before we heard of all this. And so, depending on where you think that's at, whenever it slows down, going down, be a good opportunity to get back in and at least ride that thing a limit move or two and get back up there where we were at, because it's gonna, where it belongs. It belongs back up there. But to show you what a big deal that plant fire was at Finney County, Tyson, we had a big crop report, and that's what we've been looking forward to here most of the summer. At least the last couple of months was this big crop report, and nobody really talking about it that much on Monday. The crop report come out. I thought they would overcorrect after having kind of egg on their face and everybody rolling their eyes at how good they thought the crop was and how many acres they thought they were going to plant whenever they had their July report on the June crop tours. But now they went back and looked at July and come back and did not change it a whole lot. They said that they had 91.7 million acres projected to be planted. They come out this report saying 90. We were thinking more like 88. So it was more than what the industry was thinking. They're talking harvested acres at 82 million, even though we know there's been a lot of loss there, but maybe not as much as we're thinking. But 13.9 billion bushels, and that's down 4% from 2018, but still more than what we thought. Before we were thinking 166 bushels the acre on the yield. We were thinking that was a little lofty. Come back with this report at 169.5 bushels to the acre. Whoa, thank goodness we had that flood, or we would absolutely have corn coming out our ears. But it's just unbelievable that that crop report come out saying that the planted acres, the condition, everything is as good as it is, and then our ending stocks are going to be way up because we know we've got less exports because of the trade wars that's been going on. A lot of our ethanol plants have been shut down. A lot of them from damage and infrastructure damage during the harsh winter and the flooding there. But my gosh, if we hadn't had that flood, if we'd had normal conditions, can you imagine the all-time record crop that we probably would have had? But that just goes to show you, cattle would have probably been up big today after that report come out. Instead, they're all locked down the limit because of that plant fire. But cattle would have seen a big boost out of this. So when it rains, it pours. can't catch a break on the market, and when you do get an opportunity, it's overshadowed by something that come out of left field that you didn't even know. But let's look at the board on Monday. Basically, it was down the limit on cattle. Your live cattle futures were all down the limit. Your feeder cattle futures were all down the limit. August live cattle ended 105.05. October ended at 103.75. We're not sure we're going to be able to keep that in the triple digits, because for sure now, because we're going to expanded limits. So we'll see how far and how fast this thing can go down. Of course, your fat cattle deal is $3. That's the limit on a daily move, right crack out of the box there before you go to expanded limits. Feeder cattle's 4.5. It doesn't take very long of daily limit moves to take your head completely off. Feeder cattle, August feeder cattle ended at 134.40, September at 133.95. Your corn took a beating too, down 25 cents at 392 3/4 for December corn. November also took a shot, not so much from the report, but from the pressure from the corn, but down 12.5 cents at 879 1/4. Your weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade, which was a small trade, they didn't get near as much done as what they needed to, but now the whole game has changed now. But 60,800 head in your 5-area feeding region negotiated cash. That compares to 79,800 last week, 92,800 same week a year ago. Your weighted average on live steers with a range from 108 to 117, mostly from 110 to 113.5, with your southern plains all at 110. But your steer weighted average 112.37, that was down $1.45. Again, your heifers are falling way behind. We've seen that the last several weeks. Your heifer weighted average live is 111.43. Almost $1 lower than the steers, and you just don't see that very often. Your dressed weighted average, from a range of 175 to 185, mostly 178 to 183, with a steer dressed weighted average of 182.23, down $2.07. But your heifers there were under 181 at 180.96. So a lot more pressure on the heifers. They're just not bringing it. If this keeps up, we're going to see even a bigger discount on your feeder heifers than what normally has been, and been pretty sizable here last few years. Look at your nationwide negotiated cash movement, 74,000, and your packers did get some more of that out front bought, 33%, which is the biggest they've had for several weeks for the 15 to 30 day delivery. Let's talk about some sales. We knew our sales are going to be tough. Most of your big orders, your big feedlot orders, were completely out of the market. Some order buyers that were there at the Missouri State Fair there that I got to talk to, that came over to watch the Carcass Steer Show, which I've judged that several times. I was tickled to get to come back and do it again. It's something that actually makes sense. You judge the cattle on hoof as to how you think they'll finish and which one will have the best carcass. Then they send them to Greater Omaha, get all the carcass data back, and you get results. Now, only a fool would judge those in front of everybody, knowing they were going to send them right to the plant. But I stepped right in that loop, and I've done it before. But it's a great event. It teaches the youth a lot, and it's an open show. It teaches some of your producers that are wanting to learn more all about that too, and those that decide to come by and watch. It's a good learning experience there, and I'm glad to be part of it. But some feeder cattle order buyers were there that I'd known that normally would have been at a Monday sale, and they said their guys called them and were just completely out of the market. And I think that was probably the case everywhere. But look at your big sales. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, just prey right there at 5,800 head. They were just setting ducks. Your feeder cattle, $6 to $12 lower. Your calves, $10 to $16 lower. You just hate it for the guys that had already shipped cattle into somewhere and were just sitting there waiting to see how bad it was, and just you know, $70–80 a head, you know, in some cases, and just less than what they would have brought had this deal not happened. Joplin Regional Stockyards, they got a lot of their cattle shut down. They only had 2,500 head. That's the lightest run they've had for a long time. Feeders there, $3 to $7 lower. Some steer calves, $5 to $10 lower. But just a kind of a wreck everywhere, especially on the board. But if you looked in your cash markets that were trading, I was afraid that my friends up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, at Little America, that were having the big Western Video Market sale up there, I thought they were gonna, you know, take it right in the head too. Actually got along pretty good, and talked to some of the guys there, and they got along pretty darn good there for having a lot of big yearlings for sale on Monday morning there. Before people knew what was going to happen, everybody was scared, but they had the quality, they had the reputation ranches there. It's hard to say what the cattle would have brought if I hadn't had all this, but they actually sold pretty good. A couple of stick out deals. Frenchman Valley Ranch around Imperial, Nebraska there sold several deals, but this was one lot, 200 head of 800-pound steers there at $151, and no special programs on those cattle. The Grubbing Hole Ranch there in Buffalo, South Dakota, 375 head for early October delivery, weighing 1,000 pounds, sell at $138.60 with no significant programs, just good honest cattle there, top quality cattle, and a good honest program. You know, of course, they's all long time weaned. They've been yearlings, been together for a long time, but just turned out with native grass and mineral and water and fresh air. But they got along pretty darn good at Western Video Market, and glad of it. They've got a lot of calves to sell here on Tuesday. That probably won't be quite as easy as those long time green grass yearlings to sell. I'll give you one individual quote from the little market with the big prices, and this doesn't sound awful bad either, but Toby Myers sent me this. Sylvan Sales, Sylvan Grove, Kansas, there sold a load of 882-pound steers at $136.10. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.